Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I am Jim Punzenberger, your host, creator of the Managed Prospecting System, and author of $0 Advertising Strategies. And if you ever felt unsure about whether your business is really protected, today's conversation is going to give you clarity. We're talking with Cameron Rowe, founder and CEO of CRC Data Technologies. He's been leading IT support and cybersecurity efforts for SMBs in Northwest Florida for over a decade or more. He's got a gift for turning complex tech threats to clear, practical solutions. Today, he's going to help us separate risk from clickbait and show us what real protection actually looks like in 2025. So, quick shout out to my day job, other than being a podcast host. If your expertise deserves more attention, but your marketing just isn't cutting through, head over to managedprospectingsystem.com. We'll help you get seen where decision makers actually hang out using authority building content that builds trust and outbound content that finds them everywhere they're looking. Plus, we're the only IT marketing agency that allows you to name your own guarantee for us. So check out managedprospectingsystem.com. Let's jump right into it, Cameron.
Sure thing.
So let's start here. You've been behind the scenes of a lot of businesses. What's the most common cybersecurity blind spot that small businesses have, and how serious is it?
Well, when I started out, everybody was doing BDR left and right, mostly for things like physical threats, hurricanes, or just data loss. And then it became ransomware. And now a lot more of those targets are the web, is SaaS services, M365 or Google. And the attackers are going after the mailboxes. And I think a lot of people sometimes don't realize, because I've had customers who don't get, if they get into your email, they've got everything. That's the master key.
Right.
And so we've had customers that have resisted MFA, and then they get hit, or they they go turn it off themselves, and they call us and go, "What do I do?" And
It is
any hacker
annoying,
worth his
but
weight in salt is going to go through your deleted items and you're going to search for welcome, because you want to find up all the services that person signed up for, and then you're going to say reset password on every single one of them. You're going to get okay, here's the email to reset your password, and he's going to go change them all before you wake up. So that tends to be the biggest one. And then the fact that this is happening faster and faster with AI, they now can scrape that data, and a bot can do what used to take a human half an hour, a bot can do in about 2 minutes.
wow. So
So
like,
it's really just waiting for response times from the other end.
yeah, so even though MFA is really annoying, it's really way more annoying if you like lose if you get hacked and they drain your bank account.
Yeah, breaches these days are miserable, especially if you're connected to things like your bank account. It can be really bad.
So also you've cybersecurity insurance is one of those things that people buy without really understanding it. You mentioned when we chatted earlier, reviewing liability policies. What should business owners be asking or what questions should they be asking that they're probably not or not aware they should be asking about their cyber policies?
So the terms are changing. About 4 or 5 years ago, when a lot of people started signing their cyber policies, and people businesses who hadn't cared as much about it until that point, from about 10 to 5 years ago, they started signing up, and the insurance company was more than happy to take their money. And the actuaries looked at what the risk was and couldn't imagine that it would accelerate at an exponential rate, and it did. Because as soon as hackers became cyber criminals and they could make money doing it, there was an incentive. There's a reason to do it. It wasn't a hobby anymore. And as a result, the insurance companies lost their shirt. They just took a bath when it came to the claims. As a result, the rates went through the roof. I've had clients call me and say, my rates have tripled or quadrupled. Some of them just said, I'm going to gamble. I'm not going to renew. And I said, okay. That's a risk. Thankfully, we didn't have any that got hit during that time, so that was nice. But the big concern is, if the terms change. So what happened was the insurance companies, the rates have started coming down again. But the reason for that is that they changed their terms. They started bringing in experts that understood IT and understood cybersecurity and understood that the threatscape was changing all the time. In order for the actuaries to understand it, they had to recognize how the shifting landscape was changing the risk from, in many cases, quarter to quarter. It wasn't even a year at a time. From one quarter to the next, there'd be big shifts, and whether it was nation state attacks that had ramped up or just some new method of threat, and so we now are seeing that insurance companies are denying claims at the rate of about up to 44%, which is pretty terrifying. If you're paying, tens
Yeah.
of thousands of dollars a year for that insurance policy, you get hit. And then they go, oh, well, when you renewed, this was one of the terms, and you don't have that. You don't have a formal cybersecurity training awareness program. You don't have an incident response policy. And you don't have a written security policy or an acceptable use policy. And what happens is business owners, your insurance agent goes, hey, it's time for renewal. Here's the renewal. And a lot of owners just think, oh, it's the same as last year. Sure, just go ahead and sign it. And they don't really review what the terms and requirements are. And so they're missing this. And they don't think to ask the IT guy, and a lot of times the IT guy doesn't know what to do with policy work. And so you end up either bringing in HR or having to bring them together. So a lot of companies like us are having to become much more knowledgeable about policy and process and things that don't have anything to do with the bits and bytes, but they do have to do with compliance with all the regulations and standards that are out there. And it kind of reminds me of the Denzel Washington line in Training Days. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So now we're out there collecting evidence instead of just protecting our clients, because it's not enough just to protect them. As much as you can put tools in place and you can do everything right, there's, no matter how good a mousetrap you build, there's always going to be a better mouse. And eventually someone gets hit. And when they do, the question is, did you follow these standards? And so that's what we've been harping on lately, is trying to get people to, well, we're buying some cybersecurity, that should be okay, to what do you really need? And what does your insurance require?
Yeah, so like they could be buying a policy that they don't actually qualify for, essentially, if they don't, because they're not following the things that the policy requires for it
Yeah.
to be effective.
And it may have just changed this year. Maybe last year it was fine, but now there's a new term that requires something. If you don't review those, you can get stung pretty bad.
And at the rate of 44% denial, that's like a 50-50 flip a coin on
Yeah.
if your cybersecurity claim is going to be denied or not.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think many people would get on an airplane if it had a 60 or a 56% chance of arriving safe.
So, what other things should small businesses be concerned about with in regards to cybersecurity?
Um, Really, I feel like AI is changing things so quickly. It's making some amazing things possible, and that's wonderful. Unfortunately, it's also making the threat actors more capable, more dangerous, and faster. Just they can accomplish so much more in so little time, and so it's now we're now literally pitting computers against computers in the war of cyber terrorism, and trying to prevent the attack with a smarter machine than the guy that's going after you. And so a lot of these tools now have some AI aspects built into them to identify, is this a real threat or is this a flash in the pan? And then if it is, let's go ahead and react to it. And then at that point, they'll push it to a SOC where a human looks at it and makes a more thorough assessment. But the idea is to lock it down quickly. I've got to say that the days of just putting an antivirus on your computer are gone. The threat, has moved from protecting the endpoint to protecting the cloud. And so it's not so much just you got to keep your computer safe, it's that you have to keep your accounts safe. And now all of a sudden there's all this connectivity that exists from one account to the next. If you don't review that occasionally, that can become a security hole. So there's a lot to keep up with. It's just an ever-changing landscape that you have to go, oh, new threat, let's go see which of our clients might be at risk here that we need to make an adjustment and either get an update or replace a device in order to resolve the issue, the risk.
So, Cameron, if somebody's listening right now and they're thinking, well, I don't know if I'm secure. I don't know if I'm in compliance with my cyber insurance policy.
Mhm.
I don't know what I need. What would be a good way for them to reach out to you?
You can either call our office here at Destin, 850-654-7262, or you can email me, Crowe, CROWE, at crcdatatech.com. We'd be happy to take a look at it, and whether it's us or your existing HR or IT or CFO, definitely review the cyber policy. It's usually on the first page. Is most of the either terms of requirements or exclusions, and you want to make sure that you understand, because some of those exclusions can be very confusing. They'll say, "Well, we're not going to cover you for acts of war." Okay, so if a nation state builds a tool that is designed for hacking and a hacker uses it in an act of war. So it gets kind of dicey. And the other thing I would recommend is, have a good attorney on hand for technical things like this, because when they go to court, the judges don't understand it. Usually even the attorneys, coming after you or your clients don't understand it. And it gets to be a lot of fog of war. It gets to be very confusing. You get kind of the blind leading the blind.
And is there something like special that you offer if a small business reaches out to you?
There is. So we actually have something as affordable as $150 a month, where we will go through, build the policies that you need. We'll make sure that you're in alignment with your cyber insurance. We'll make sure that all of your employees have signed off so that you have the evidence that you need to collect, so that whenever, God forbid, if the insurance company calls you or an attorney comes to you and you get that letter that says, here's your lawsuit, you can go, here's my defense, and we have done all these things, and this is the evidence. And evidence is the key word. That's the biggest protection when it comes to any sort of legal situation. It's not just, I did it, I can prove I did it. Here's the documentation of it.
Well, Cameron, before we wrap up here, any final thoughts?
The biggest one is, if you don't have someone who specializes in cybersecurity and know what your need is. I mean, if I've got a client who sells fish, he doesn't care if there's a data breach and his client records get out. There's not enough personal information to matter. But if it's an attorney, if it's a small medical facility, the fines alone can add up massively. But then also, again, the lawsuits and having to pay for identity protection for every single patient, it can get expensive fast. So make sure you have an expert, a professional. The other thing I would say is get a penetration test. Get someone to test. You said some people may not know if they have the security they need. And we use a third party to pen test. So we actually offer that to our customers. And we say, look, it's no financial cost to you. All we ask is that you sit down and review it with us. And you can call the guys that did the pen test if you want to talk to them. But we don't do it because it needs to be arm's length, separate audit. And those guys will then tell you, here's where the holes are, and this is what you need to fix. So that's my recommendation. If you want to know if you're not protected, hire someone who can tell you whether or not they can get through your defenses. And if they can, it's time to do something.
And they can reach out to you for help with that, and get a pen test on you. It sounds
absolutely.
Like.
Yep.
Well, Cameron, thank you for showing us today how to protect or better protect small businesses, and educating about cybersecurity and what to do to make sure that I guess the big thing is making sure that if you have a cybersecurity insurance policy, that you're following the things that they require, so that in the event of a cyber loss, it'll be covered and not denied.
Exactly. Hopefully a breach doesn't turn into a loss is the idea.
Got it. And until next time on the Profits of IT, I am Jim Punzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com and keep it caffeinated and hydrated. Bye for now.